So in this video, we're going to talk about one of the ways to regulate a monopoly, which is a marginal cost pricing policy. Then in the next video, we'll talk about average cost pricing policy, and then we'll kind of look at how the two are similar and how they're different. So the overwhelming theme, kind of when we were talking about monopoly beforehand in all of the other videos and in the other lectures, is that there is this dead weight loss to monopoly. And so just for a little bit of a refresher, the monopoly graph looks like this. We have price, we have quantity, we have demand right here, then we have marginal revenue, which is the derivative of total revenue. And again, demand is the same thing as that's also average revenue. And then we have marginal cost, and the monopoly chooses to produce where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. So they choose to produce this quantity, which we'll call Q star, and then they go up and to the demand line and over, and that gives you P star. So going through that really quickly, obviously, that's because this should all be review at this point. If it's not, go back and make sure you're really clear on monopoly first, because otherwise this video is going to make absolutely no sense. And then we had this thing called the dead weight loss of monopoly, which was always kind of this triangle in here, and that was the loss in total surplus for this market being a monopoly. In other words, it's the difference in total surplus between what the total surplus would be if this were a competitive market and the total surplus that it is right now as a monopoly. So because there's this loss in total surplus, we can say that monopoly is bad, because economics thinks that what is good is maximizing total surplus. That's just by definition. So there's plenty that you can argue about that. In fact, on a lot of situations I do argue about that, but for now you want to maximize total surplus, and so anything that doesn't maximize total surplus is bad. So monopolies are bad because there's this dead weight loss. So if they're bad, we obviously need to regulate them. And I say that mildly sarcastically, but that's just about the logic that goes on right here. So we're going to go get down to that, and then we'll kind of try and abstract back and see what we just did. So to start off with, we're going to draw that exact same diagram a lot bigger for the before. And I'm doing this just so that you guys have a really clear visual representation of what is going on here. So we have quantity, we have price, we have demand right here, and I'm drawing it kind of wide to give myself some room. We're going to have marginal revenue right here. Again, not drawn to scale, drawn so that, you know what, we're going to actually scoot that in a little bit. So we're going to put marginal revenue right there. Then marginal cost, you know what, we'll spread that out a little. And then we're going to produce where, you know what, I need to throw one more line in here. So we are going to put average total cost in right here. And we'll see why I do that in a second. So before I do anything else, I'm going to just copy and paste this over so that I have the same thing to work with on the other side. So just bear with me one moment. So that should do it. Scoot it over a little. And then I'll just clean up a teeny tiny bit. So we'll do that. We'll get rid of that. And that should just about do it. So we'll put a new price up here. Okay, so now we'll start working on this before a little bit more. So without any regulation whatsoever, the monopolist is going to produce where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. They will produce this quantity, which I'm going to label Q with a U above it for unregulated. They're going to charge this price. So I'll label that P with a U above it. And then they will earn this profit right here it'll just be, it's going to be kind of hard to see. My apologies, but it will be the difference between average total cost at this quantity and average revenue or demand at this quantity. And so they will earn this rectangle of profit. So that will be their profit. Now, everything changes if they're regulated. So first we're going to talk about how they're regulated, and then we're going to go do the diagram of what the effect is. So marginal cost pricing policy says that we are going to force price to be where marginal cost is equal to demand. Okay? So just to reiterate, we're going to force the price to be where marginal cost is equal to demand, and I should say or lower. So what does that look like in this diagram? Well, this is where marginal cost is equal to demand. So the price is going to be fixed right here, or it could be lower. So our new demand line is going to be this. And I'm just going to color right over it, and we will call this D1. And so I'm coloring over it a lot because I think it's important that you realize that this is our new demand line. Alright, so we have D1 in red, where the original demand line was this purple line right here. Now the new demand line is, it goes directly over from the price where marginal cost was equal to demand, and then it goes down. So now we need to figure out what our new marginal revenue curve is. So we're going to do marginal revenue in a very bright blue. So if price is constant, our marginal revenue is constant. So this is going to be marginal revenue for that part of it. And then it's just going to be the exact same as it was for the other marginal revenue, only shifted over to start right here. So you don't need to see all this. If you want to work through the calculations on your own, you actually can. You have all the tools to do it. You just need to do it like you would any other marginal revenue calculation. But to kind of speed this video up, I'm just going to tell you that it will have the same slope as the marginal revenue curve did originally, and it will start out over here. So this is going to be marginal revenue 1, the new marginal revenue. So now the monopolist is going to do the exact same thing with this new marginal revenue curve. They're going to choose where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, and then they're going to go up to the demand line and produce that, charge that price. So I said that kind of fast, and I also slurred my words and missed a couple words, so we're going to go through it slow one more time. So afterwards, the monopolist is still going to produce where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. So still produce where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. So that will be right here, because by definition, we created this marginal revenue curve so that it went through the point where marginal cost was equal to demand. So this is going to be the equivalent of this green point over here. And so we'll go down here, and we're going to produce this quantity. So this will be the quantity regulated. So now we need to go up to the demand line to find the price that it will charge. And it turns out that we're already on the demand line, because this red line is the demand curve, remember? So we're already on the demand line, so this is going to be the price that we're going to charge. We're going to charge the maximum price that the regulators let us. So that will be our price with regulation. Now here's the problem with a marginal cost pricing policy. Whereas the monopoly was earning a small profit over here, so let's go ahead and say this is a small profit, And I don't know, it could be gigantic, but just in this diagram it looks kind of small, so I'm going to say it's small. Over here in this other diagram, and we'll do this in yellow, the monopolist is earning a loss because average total cost is above average revenue. So this rectangle is a loss. And let's say that this is all in the long run. Long run. So this is negative profit, and so we have a loss. So why is that important? Well, if a company is earning a loss in the long run, they could put their money to better use elsewhere. And so this monopoly will go out of business if it is forced to produce, if it is only allowed to charge the price where marginal cost is equal to demand. So this marginal cost pricing policy will put this monopoly out of business. And that would mean that this monopoly could be providing positive, in fact it is providing positive surplus. And I'm not going to go ahead and draw that here or here because it will just mess up the diagrams. But you can go back and look at the monopoly, the original monopoly videos, and see that this monopoly would be producing a surplus. So since it's producing some surplus, it is increasing total surplus, putting it out of business is a bad thing. So we want this monopoly in business. So we don't want to enforce this marginal cost pricing policy because that will put it out of business. So that's where marginal cost pricing policy can mess up, is that it can put a monopoly that is creating a total surplus out of business. Now, let's just say really quickly, just to show you where it can work and why this is sometimes a good idea, or can be sometimes a good idea, is that let's say that average total cost now was like this. This is our new average total cost. And this is going to get a little crowded, so I apologize ahead of time. Then the monopolist will charge this price still, and it will make this profit right here. So this would be the profit that it would make if it had this new average total cost curve. And in this case, then the regulation is still fine because the monopoly will still be in business and it will charge a lower price and produce a greater quantity, which will increase the total surplus. So kind of the quick and dirty explanation is that if average total cost is above demand where marginal cost equals demand, the situation in purple, then marginal cost pricing policy doesn't work. However, if average total cost is below demand, where marginal cost is equal to demand, then it will work. And that's really all that I want to say about it. That should be all that you need to know, and I will see you in the next video.